So this is 26.3 predicting VO2 max scores. So starting with the introduction, Merriam-Webster.com states that VO2 max is the maximum amount of oxygen that the body can use at once during sports or activities. This is usually in high intensity sports or exercise. VO2 max can be helpful for sports purposes, but also for health purposes. One way knowing your VO2 max score can be helpful to your health is that you can compare your score with other people your age and gender to see how you compare with their normative data. This can give an indication if you are healthy or not. It is said to be one of the most important overall correlates to a healthy person, meaning if you have a high aerobic capacity, you are more likely to be a healthy individual. This makes sense as if you had a low VO2 max, and it could be suggested that the individual performs less exercise and therefore lives a less healthy lifestyle. Conditions related to having a low VO2 max could be a heart disease, diabetes, and other conditions related to a sedentary lifestyle where there is little to no exercise. This is further backed up and reinforced by Williams, who found that a 10% increase in VO2 max can lead to a 15% decrease in the risk of having a heart attack. This means by finding if you have a low VO2 max score, it can mean realizing that there are things to do to improve your health and fitness. Aside from reducing the risk of heart attacks, improving your VO2 max scores can mean reducing the risk of type 2 diabetes, improving cognitive function, reduce the risk of depression, and also reduces the risk of some cancers. So this is how VO2 max is useful for a healthy lifestyle, but how can it benefit elite athletes who know they already have they already live healthy lifestyles with plenty of exercise? In sport, it is vital to success that an athlete can perform at their very best, especially when competing with the best talent from all over the world. Even a slight improvement in an aspect of fitness or skill can mean taking an advantage from another team or opponent. Once an athlete finds their VO2 max scores and they compare their data to other athletes of their positions in sports and see if they can aim to improve their goals. In sports, the VO2 max scores of groups or of athletes or young sports players might be used for scouting purposes. This is because some people may have a genetically higher VO2 max ability than others, and it means that they are probably more suited for elite sports. If they see that someone has an extremely high VO2 max score and they are tall, they may be selected for the tall and talented program for sports. That is an example of how someone is scouted by their VO2 max score. However, a VO2 max score is not always the defining part of a successful athlete. Although endurance athletes will naturally have a higher VO2 max score because of the nature of their sport, successful athletes such as shot putters and anaerobic sports people will tend to have a lower VO2 max score because of the nature of their sport. This can show that VO2 max is not always an indicator of a successful sports person, and also if they are unhealthy or not. An example of how VO2 max ranges between different sports can be track and field athletes who have a VO2 max score of about 75 mil compared to a gymnast who has a VO2 max score of about 50 mil. This shows how two athletes can be elite and not both have high VO2 max scores. Different tests available. There are many different tests available, and these range between indirect and direct. And they also range from maximal and submaximal testing. So submaximal tests mean that the participant won't have to exert their full energy on the testing, where maximal testing is a full use of energy. Indirect testing is when an aspect is measured and VO2 max score is calculated from this. So it's an estimation from another reading. So for example, in the Queen's College step-up test, they would step up on a platform and then measure their heart rate afterwards. And depending on how fast or low their heart rate is, their VO2 max score would be estimated from this. So this contrasts the gold standard method of measuring VO2 max as direct methods directly measure the gas exchange in the body, and therefore is not making an estimation. So the gold standard of testing is the gas analysis, which I just mentioned. So Nagata et al. Found that when the Douglas bag was tested against two other tests for aerobic capacity, which were the ATLA and the ATGE test, it was found that there was a significant correlation, The results had a p-value of below 0.01, suggesting that the Douglas valve is a valid and reliable test method. Duffield found that when using another model of gas analysis measure of VO2 max, it was found that they had a good test-retest reliability, but slightly over-predicted the results when measured with a metabolic cart. This can suggest that some different models of gas analysis may read differently and give consistently different results. So moving on to the methods. Before testing begins, there are a few pre-test measures that need to be taken into account and gone through before the test can be conducted. Firstly, the participants need to fill out a PAR-Q, which means that they can let the researchers know of any past or present injuries that they may be suffering from, which could damage the chance of the results being valid and reliable. This is important as one of the tests is a maximal test, and this can mean putting strain on the body and therefore means that someone who is recovering or who has a weakened body could suffer an injury. This might have to filled out. The PAR-Q has to be filled out in advance of testing so that participants can have a chance of going to their GP and checking if it is suitable for them to perform this activity, if they've had a previous injury or illness that would stop them or hinder them from participating. The next pre-test prep is giving out informed consent forms, which details that the participant can pull out from the testing at any time. This means that if they are seriously fatigued or uncomfortable, they will not be forced to finish the testing, and they will not be asked why they are finishing the testing either. So the first method is the Queen's College Step-Up Test, which is a sub-maximal test for VO2 max and requires a few things before the testing can begin. The test requires a raised platform, a stopwatch, and a CD player with the audio for the test itself. Once this has been set up, the audio will play, which is a series of bleeps in a rhythm that the participants have to follow. Each time there is a beat, the participant needs to step up into the platform and step down accordingly. They need to repeat this until the testing is complete after 3 minutes of stepping. Then after this has been completed, the participants will need to sit down and take their pulse manually with their fingers. The pulse can be recorded anywhere, but it's suggested it should be the radial pulse that is recorded, and that is by the wrist. Note that there needs to be a 5-second gap between when the participant stops stepping and when the researcher or participant takes down their heart rate. This is called the recovery heart rate. Find the participant's VO2 max score from this. An equation is needed, which for males is 111.33 minus 0.42 times the recovery heart rate, which was just found. So moving on to the next method of measuring VO2 max is the multi-stage fitness test developed by Eager and Lambert in 1982. It requires a few things for the test to be conducted at the optimum level, at the most optimum level possible. This is a non-slip floor, 20 meters of space, marking cones, the multi-stage fitness test audio type, CD player, and a recording sheet. All of these are important for making sure that the test can be conducted in the best fashion possible. Before the multi-stage fitness test can begin, the participants must warm up beforehand to make sure that their bodies are ready to perform at maximal exertion. It is much more important to have a warm-up before this test and not the Queen's College test in comparison, because the multi-stage test is of maximal exertion, so it means that the body's muscles have to be loose and ready to perform to give the most accurate representation of what the individual can achieve. While the individuals warm up, an assistant or the main researcher will measure out 20 meters and mark the points on either end. This is where the participants will run between. Now that the participants are ready after their warm-up, they need to line up at the starting point, which is one of the points marked at 20 meters. Once the recording has started, there will be a bleeping sound that will signify the starting point, which means that the participants run to the other side of the 20-meter stretch. They need to make it to the line before the next bleep sounds. This is repeated until the participants physically can't continue anymore, or that they miss the line before the bleep sounds, and they need to find out what score they had. So the bleep test goes up in levels and shuttles and links to a VO2 max score, which is gathered from normative data. So to calculate the VO2 max score from this, the participant will have to input this data into an online calculator to find their score. However, if this is not available, there is another method for calculating your VO2 max score without going online. The equation was developed by Kidling, 2006, and is 0.38 times the number of shuttles completed plus 25.98. So moving on to results. So now looking at how the individual's results in the testing compared to health and sport normative data, we can firstly see that according to runnersworld.com, the average VO2 max score for a football player is around 65 mil. When looking at the individual's VO2 max score that was recorded, we can see that the Queen's College Step Up test that was used, they received a score of 60.9 mil, and for the multi-stage fitness test, a score of 57.6 mil. As we can see, the results were fairly close to each other, and means that the results reliability has been increased slightly, and it indicates that the tests were valid. When comparing the participants' data with the VO2 max score of an ideal football player, we can see that there is a difference of 7.4 mil to 4.1 mil, depending on which test is compared. This shows that there is an individual, as an individual, they're actually well suited to the sport that they play in. It shows that they can raise their VO2 max score slightly to be in an optimum position to be an elite football player. However, as a participant plays the role of a defender, which possibly means that he will not have to have as high VO2 max score as a striker or midfielder. This might justify why his VO2 max score is slightly lower than 65. However, improving their VO2 max scores can mean that they gain an advantage over other players that play their position, and it means that they can perform at a higher level. When comparing the participants' data to a health to normative data for their age, we can see that they are well above the average for their age of 18 years old. The average VO2 max scores for someone their age is 42 to 46. According to topendsports.com, while the participants are much higher at 50, according to it's 42 to 46 according to topendsports.com for an 18-year-old, while the participants are much higher at 57.6 for the multi-stage fitness test and 60.9 for the Queen's College Step-Up test. A suggestion can now be made that the participant is a healthy individual. As mentioned previously, it is stated that usually the VO2 max score is a big indicator to whether the individual is leading a healthy life or not, as having a higher VO2 max score can mean reducing many diseases. This suggests that the individual is healthy and does not need to make goals for his health, as according to topendsports.com, the participant is in the excellent group for VO2 max scores. So now looking at the strengths the limitations for having a lower VO2 max score for his sport. So it will mean that they might struggle to perform at a higher level for longer, or not have the requisite fitness to sustain a sequence where they are needed to defend for a long period of time. However, the participants' VO2 max is considered excellent if the Queen's College Step-Up test results are used. And this means that they are likely are fit and healthy and able to sustain a lot of stress and work during exercise. However, these are results of an 18-year-old, where most elite football players have had training all throughout their careers with the best facilities and programs. This means that this is unrealistic to compare an 18-year-old with lesser facilities and training to a professional athlete, as they are playing at different levels. This means that this might not be a great concern to the participants, as they may not need to improve this to have success at their lower level. So finally, a plan to raise their VO2 max is they would run a 10-kilometer run twice a week, and have 3 conditioning sessions every week as well. So, these conditioning sessions would range between rowing, stationary cycling, and running on a treadmill for 20 minutes each. So for 3 times a week, that's 20 minutes on either bike, treadmill, or the rowing machine. Sorry, and then that would move up to 35 minutes after 3 weeks of the initial training program to complete 6 weeks. This will raise his VO2 max, as the 10-kilometer run is a maximal exertion exercise, and therefore will raise the VO2 max